Hello, this is Ruth Brunner with the Windsor Severance Historical Society, and today is July 26, 2021, and I have the pleasure of interviewing Betty Detterer. And Betty, why don't you go ahead and give us your full name?
My name is Betty Shirley Detterer. I was a Walder, and I've been here now for 68 years now.
68, and we're interviewing her at her house on that they built new, but it was on where their old farm was.
Correct.
In Riverbend Subdivision between 11th and 12th, or 11th and 14th?
11th and 13th.
13th. So let's, I'm going to ask you just a few little questions just to get to know you. So were you born here in Windsor?
No, I was born about 8 miles east of here. 1 mile north of Farmer's Spur, and that was 2 miles away from Bracewell.
Okay.
So there's a little gas station and a grocery store. That's where we got to during the war, that's where we got our groceries.
Okay. So what brought your parents here to this area?
Well, they were farmers, and they farmed for this one family for 22 years. And I was born on the place. I have a picture of the farmhouse that I was born in. It's still in existing. It was remodeled after the tornado had damaged it.
Oh, in 2008?
And so it's still there. And I had stopped about 3 years ago, and I drove in, and I said, I'm so-and-so. I said, I was born in this house. I said, can I come in and see it? And the old man looked at me and thought, oh my goodness, this house is old.
Oh, no.
And so I was born there in the house, and then when I got married, I moved over here and was on the family farm here for...
So who did you marry, and how did you meet your husband?
Well, that's a long story.
Well, we'll give the...
But I met him in the house on the farm because my mother and his aunt were cousins, and they had attended a funeral in Wyoming, and his aunt asked my mother to come over that night and visit with Henry's folks, and so that's when I met him.
Henry Detterer, right?
Yeah.
And he passed away
2 years ago, May the 16th.
Yeah, he was a wonderful man.
He was 94 years old.
94 years old, so
So
he was older than you, because
Yeah.
can we say how old you are?
I'm 88. And he was born 1.5 miles east of Windsor. And when he was 9 years old, his parents bought this farm.
Okay.
And he was there all his life.
Yeah, you want to show us a picture of the farm? Because people won't believe
Yeah.
that this is their farm. I mean, this is what's, Windsor between 11th Street. Where would 11th Street be on that?
It would be from...
The patio homes?
Yeah, patio homes on the west side and...
East side, yeah.
I can't even think now. Well, where Steffens
Grocery Market was, sure.
There, yeah.
The old Windsor
Yeah.
West Shopping
and now
Center. Loaf and Jug, or
yeah,
Loaf and Jug,
yeah.
and yeah,
And
Schrader's
McDonald's,
Schrader's,
yeah.
whoever
Yeah,
bought that.
that's
So,
in the
all right. So, what changes have you seen? If you want to,
A
you can
lot.
point out on the farm picture. Yeah.
Well, in all of these, when we sold the farm in 78, we had to move off of town, and all of the buildings were moved over to Gailton. My brother-in-law, Grady Dyer, bought them, and he moved them all over, and I have a picture of the house being moved through town.
Wow.
And so...
In 78.
And then we had to move into town across from the library on Cherry Court until we got enough somebody to buy this place, and so that's...
So, what was farm life?
Oh, it wasn't lovely. I mean, I worked as a hired man for Henry, and I was a hired man for my dad after my brother and sister moved off and got married. Why, then I had to help my dad. I drove tractors, drove trucks, stacked hay, top beats, thin beats, You name it and I did it.
You did it. So if I was to zoom in on that picture, what else? And you had a feedlot. What else did you have
We
on
had
your farm?
potato cellar.
Uh-huh.
And that was our winter job. Henry and I would go down there and fork loose potatoes into 100-pound sacks, and people would come from everywhere to get them. And I would drive the truck while harvesting potatoes, and back down the truck, down the dugout, and I'd only have about 6 inches on each side. And the labor that loaded the potatoes on the truck for me, they would stand and were shaking, wondered whether I was going to make it down there. And they'd say, "A good lady, her know how to drive."
Oh, her know how to drive. Yeah, that's impressive.
Yeah.
So the potato cellar and then the feedlot behind.
Yeah.
What is? Do you kind of know when you walk around your neighborhood what sits?
Oh yeah.
What houses and where those things
Yeah.
are now?
Yeah.
What sits on top of the potato cellar or the feedlot?
Well, the feedlot, the potato cellar now is on 11th Street. Well, not a little bit over west from 11th Street.
Okay.
And so the patio homes now are down where we had potatoes in that field and corn and hay, whatever.
Wow.
You know, so.
Now I know there's some natural springs that sit back just west of the patio homes in that open space area.
Well, it came from on the corner of 13th Street. Come on, put it back down again.
Yeah.
13th Street, there was, we got irrigation water from the number 2 ditch that we got to irrigate with. And there was a spring that started up there on Main Street and came down to the slant of our farm. And it was when they made the subdivision, they found out that there was a wooden tile that was bringing that water back down.
Wow. Not made out of wood.
Yeah.
What year do you think that was?
Oh, heavens, that would be way back in the 1900s even, before
Yeah.
34.
Before Henry's parents bought it in 34.
Yeah.
Okay. So you've seen lots of changes in
Yeah.
there. So what would you say is the most significant change, or what was maybe the hardest to overcome? Or
Well, when we first got married in 53, there was only about 1,200 people in town.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I would say 15. And then when the sugar factory closed, then it went down to 1,200 because everybody was shipped out and there was no factories around here for people to work. And young kids, they don't want to farm, so they moved off and moved someplace else.
Wow. So how did you, to develop a farm is not easy.
No, it was difficult.
It was difficult. What were some of the obstacles you had to overcome on that?
Well, it was bad business with working with the town. They didn't accept a lot of things that the first buyer had, and so.
And that was in 74 was the first buyer.
And so then we had to go back and buy the place back because he didn't pay the contractors that he had hired to do. Mm-hmm. So we had to go back and buy it back, our farm.
And then just be patient.
Yeah.
So you're a patient soul.
Well, we had to be.
And when was this development then finally? Who came in and
Stan Everett from Coldwell Bankers came in and bought it. Him and 2 of the guys. And then they bought it. They bought the farm then from Everett. Mm-hmm. So we didn't. They bought it back double from what we got.
Oh.
So it was a little difficult.
A little difficult.
Yeah.
But boy, you have made a lot of your life,
Yeah.
Betty. I mean, I'm sitting down here in your space craft room. Can you tell us a little bit about your craft room and that? And we can walk around and look if you want, or you can show me some of the things.
got involved with, in 2000, I had gotten breast cancer. And so 10 months later, our daughter got breast cancer, and we'd attended a couple of meetings over in Greeley in the hospital, and then finally there was 3 gals from Windsor here that started Breast Friends. And so I start making the heart pillows for the women that had surgery to put underneath their arms. And so then I start making other things for them, and so I just kept getting. And then, of course, before that, I had done craft shows for 45 years.
Oh, so you had.
Yeah, I done shows from Cheyenne to Colorado Springs, from Sterling to up in the mountains, Longmont. I did craft shows there for 28 years.
Wow.
Adams County I did for 28 years.
So are you willing to show us some of your things?
Well,
Here, I'll take this.
yeah. These are little puppets, finger puppets for kids. They got lollipops underneath of them. And the little duck puppets. I had belonged to a craft show in Fort Collins Club, and some woman come in and asked if anybody would make crochet some little duck puppets, and I went home and I started and I ripped out, started over again until I had 11 of them done. I called her the next day, and she came in and she sent them to her little grandson that was gone to college over Paris, France, and he wanted his grandma's, they called them Incas over there, I guess. Anyway, he called his grandma back, and he said, "Oh, you tell that woman she done a wonderful job. We've had more fun with that."
Oh, so you have those? I'm going to just so we can get quickly,
Yeah.
but look at all of this. You've got blankets
Yeah, a little.
and little hats and look at the little soft balls. And
Little baby
so how did you learn
slippers.
to make all these things?
Well, I started learning how to crochet when I was 12 years old. And then after I got married, then I learned to knit. And I have embroidery thread and stuff that I've...
Can I zoom in on some of these tiny little things? Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
I don't
The
know.
tiniest are
There's a little bitty basket here. I don't know if you can see it.
for doll houses.
Uh-huh.
And
I had more
teacups.
fun with that, and the teacups with...
Oh. And just beautiful things. And here's a painting down. So, and you've got
the crosses, bookmarkers. I made over 300 of them for a church in Fort Collins.
Well, now we're stay on topic, but this
Yeah.
is too pretty not to look at. What do we have here?
This is our farm. A lady painted it from Denver. Her family used to come up and do hunting down there, and she said we didn't charge them, so she painted that. So Walnut Street comes right across here now, and patio homes are sitting right down in here. There's a inlet there that goes down into the pasture, and it's supposed to be a park there, but they don't take care of it like they should. But like I said, all these buildings have been moved off.
And now you said that wasn't a pond, that was Bertha Streep's farm and her hayfield, but the
that
gal
was a barley field.
barley field.
And 392 wasn't even existed then.
And what year did 392
I would say in 60 it opened up.
Yeah, late 60s.
Yeah.
And it was a gravel road before that?
Right. No, it just went to 15, on the corner of 15, and that was it, dead end. There was a farmhouse back in here, but this is a Jacoby farm.
Okay, because I know.
So that's all in houses now, and King Supers and everything is in there.
Wow, things change.
Yeah, and this is the Streeps farm here.
Okay. So, and then you have pictures like we saw of the farm that they took. Who took these photos, aerial photos?
Low-level dusting. And they would spray our corn and hay or whatever, potatoes and stuff.
And they would spray them then. Do you think some of that spray was toxic now? Are they finding that
Well,
out?
we had complaints from the town. Why do you have to spray in the so early in the morning. Well, you had to, because that's when the dew was on the leaves, and that's where the dust is for poison that we sprayed, that for aphids and everything. That's where we got them killed. So.
Yeah. All right. So is there anything else you want to show me around here? I know that you
Well,
have some quilts over here.
I've been making the prayer shawls for the women, that when they go through surgery, we give them each one of them. And then I make all the scarves just to give out in our walk. I think I've got about 60 of them.
How many quilts have you made? I see this. How many quilts?
I have made 531 Afghans, and this is the only one that I've got left.
5. Wow.
So one year I made 32 Afghans besides bedspreads and stuff. So.
So this is what keeps you young,
Yeah,
or
well,
wears you out?
It keeps me out of the bars, they say. So.
And the last thing over here, and then we'll sit down and talk maybe more about other things.
Yeah,
but this
these
is
are all the lap quilts that I've been making for them, and so whenever they get done with their treatment and they're healed, each one gets a blanket.
from the best friends or the breast friends.
Well, it's now called Footsteps now.
Footsteps.
Uh-huh.
All right. Well, go ahead and have a seat, because I don't want. I mean, all this work makes me tired. No. So, looking back and knowing that this is the home, how long have you lived here?
This is 25 years now,
Okay.
since March.
So, what was some of the first things that were developed in Riverbend? What was some of the process
Well-
you went through for that?
Well, they wouldn't let us build here right away because they wanted all 11th Street to be built first.
Okay.
And so we had to wait until 94 before we got to move in then.
To move in. So, but it was in your
Built.
dreams for a long time to do
Yes.
that.
Well, and this house is the pattern that came out of New York, and so I don't think there's another home like this anywhere.
Yeah, it's a good
So.
one. So what was the first house you remember living in? We spoke of the one on the farm.
The farm, that's
How about
it.
the first house that you lived in when you were married?
Well, the farmhouse.
The farmhouse. We saw pictures. So you lived in how many houses in your life?
1, 2, 3, 4. This is the fourth house.
Fourth house. Wow, that's quite a tribute.
Yeah.
What did you like to do most when you were young and before you started all these chores and
Well, there wasn't any time to have fun. Because you didn't tell your dad and your parents that you were bored.
Oh,
He just said, there's a shovel and a hoe. There's some weeds over there in that corner. You go get them and knock them down. And by the time you got up every morning at 4:30 and had to go out and milk cows, at 8 years old I was milking cows. 6 years old I was thinning beets. Wow. So,
how many cows did you have? We saw them in the picture, but would you say on the
there
farm
about
here?
150 to 200 cattle.
100?
And then we had 2,500 sheep, usually every winter.
All on this farm. And the farm ran how far south?
All the way down to the river, Poudre River.
Poudre River. So where the Bible College and
Yeah, Covenant, that was on the other side of our farm there. It was on the west side.
Okay. On the
And
west
we
side.
were flooded out 3 different years and lost all our crops down there and stuff. So it wasn't all peaches and cream.
Yeah. So what time of the year did the floods usually come?
The one was, well, in 76 when the Thompson flood. That was one of them, and one about in 58. I think in 58 we got flooded out again. And the last one was after 76, so I would say in 80 or so, like that.
And that.
It was-
Did you have any warnings that the flood was coming? Nobody?
No, nobody ever told us.
Okay.
In fact, our son was, that was on a Saturday night, that big flood with Thompson. And he come home early and he said, Daddy, he said, do you think we have to move the cattle up higher ground? And because some of the water came up into our pasture, up to the end of our, so it was kind of scary.
Yeah. Did you ever lose livestock for
No,
things?
no, luckily.
Luckily.
No.
Okay, well, people that live here maybe now will appreciate the fertile ground you gave them.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it wasn't all that great.
Did you spread the manure and use it for fertilizer, or did
Oh,
you?
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Instead of
And that raised good stuff.
that was okay. What do you remember most about the town of Windsor when you were growing up?
Well, it was very small, and you knew all the people, after we moved here, or I moved here. Why, you went to church, St. John's Lutheran Church, and that's where we got married in. And you just start knowing people and where they lived. And it was a clean little town. It was called Little Russian before, because that's where the Germans and Russia came from.
Mm-hmm.
And people just settled here and kept everything clean,
Yeah. Well, your church, St. John's, was on the corner of First and Elm, right?
Correct.
And that. So, what changes would you say that you've seen?
Just since since about 80, when the subdivisions started coming up, by then we knew that it was going to go. And we had waited for about 18 years before we got to sell this place. And I kept telling our realtor, I said, get this thing sold once. And he says, oh, Betty, he said, I've talked to contractors and they don't think Windsor's going to grow. And I told him, I said, you just get 11th Street paved. And I said, you'll never get it stopped. He says, oh, you're dreaming. And a couple of months later, I seen him in Fort Collins, and I said, boy, Jim, this place isn't going to sell. Windsor's just really dead. And he said, oh, Betty, I knew you'd rub it into me.
Because the second street light was on the corner there of 11th Street with the high school, but that wasn't That wasn't when the high school was built in 74, 76, I think it opened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, we know we were here when the high school burned junior high is middle school.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and we knew when the tornado hit then.
Uh-huh.
And it tore all the bleachers down in middle school there, upside down. And there was a telephone pole there, and a farmer had farmed that where the administration office is at.
Yes.
There was a farmhouse there, and he had just had straw threshed, and straw was drilled into the telephone poles.
Wow, now that was, what year was that tornado? That was in
about 59 in there, 58.
Okay.
Because our kids were real small, and I ran down the basement in the house on the farm, and it looked dark. It was really dark. And then my husband was way down on the end of the farm, down by the river, and I thought, gee, I wished he'd come home, but he didn't. And finally he came home, and he said, I said, wasn't that some storm? It was real windy. And he said, yeah. And about that time I looked up, we could see the road, and the cars coming and turning around, and one after another, and they were watching, looking where all the damage that had done.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was on 392 before you get to I-25 now, where there was a farmer that had a tin granary, and it turned it over.
Turned it over. Wow.
Yeah.
So I always thought that 2008 was like the first.
No, there was one before that.
Okay. So you've seen a lot of changes in Windsor. Which ones do you like?
My retirement.
From,
if you want to call it that.
Yeah. You haven't retired from your crafting.
No. I said, well, a woman never retires until she gets in the nursing home.
But now, was your husband in the military?
Yes, he was in the Navy, U.S. Navy, and he was in for 2 years. And when he came home, he started farming.
And then you met him after that?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I was only in the 5th grade when he was in the service, so I had no idea that somebody was fighting for me.
Oh. That's wonderful.
Yeah, so we got married in 53, and we had a daughter in 55 and a boy in
And who are your
56.
children?
Our daughter is in Cheyenne with her husband, Charlie, and they have a son, and he's got a daughter, little Lauren, she's 5.
Okay,
And then Stan is in Windsor here, and he's married to Sherry.
yeah.
And they got 2 children, a daughter and a son, and daughter's in Las Vegas, and the boy's in Berthoud.
Yes. Well, good.
So-
Well, good. So
And
life.
we have a great-grandson.
Oh, and a great grandson.
Yeah, and he just turned a year old. I can't forget that.
Oh no, you better not. Casey watches this on
Yeah,
YouTube. So, what things are important for you to do now or to finish? Do you feel like you've done the things you wanted to do in
Yes,
life?
I've done everything that I wanted to do, I just live day by day now. And hope that I don't have to linger on anything, but who knows? God only knows.
God only knows. What would you want your family or people that know you to remember about the
Oh,
things that
probably
you did?
nothing.
Oh.
I had no idea.
So what events in your life do you think had the most influence on you?
Well, just bringing up a Christian life. My parents were churchgoers. I went to church every Sunday and sometimes 3 and 4 times a week. I was on the radio station in KFKA way back when I was 6 years old. My brother and sister, we all sang.
Really?
And then were in a church that I played the accordion. My sister played accordion. My brother played a trumpet. And we were just growing up in church, and so we didn't get to do anything else besides that. And then after I got married, I was church there too. And I was Sunday school superintendent for 11 years. And I was women's group president for I don't know how many years. Nobody else would do it, so I did it. And I drove to Sterling, to Kimball, ladies' conferences, women's group. all
So,
over.
wow. So when did, so changes, computers,
Oh, yeah.
cell phones.
Cell phones,
All
yeah,
those things.
yeah.
How do you, how does that impacted your life?
Well,
What do you feel about?
It has been okay, but it's ruined a lot of things. Even when TV came in, before that you'd go and visit relatives and friends.
In person.
In person, and then TV came, and if you went to visit them, they were sitting there watching TV, not talking to you, and visiting with you, and it kind of made a dent to it, And now the cell phones have really ruined the kids. They can't even talk to you, and you can't have them for lunch or anything. They've got their phones gone.
Yeah.
So, but
What did you consider a modern invention or improvement when you were the age of your grandkids or great grandkids?
oh heavens, I have no idea right now.
What was the new thing that you were so amazed at, invention-wise?
Gosh, I don't. Well, in wash machine.
That was,
I had to carry in a lot of water when I was young and fill the reservoir of the stove with water, and I had to haul in all the coal and wood, and feed the pigs, feed the chickens. So there was anything that came automatically. Why, that was a relief.
So you obviously have a strong work ethic. What kinds of values and ethics do you hope the next generation has?
Just to learn to work, do things. Parents should tell their children what to do and how to do it. It's crazy. I've had other women come to craft shows, and they have I would think an older lady, and she didn't even know how to make her bed. She didn't know how to get dressed in the morning. She didn't know what to put on because her mother did it for her. And I said to her mother, I said, "You're the fault of this kid, not knowing how to do anything. You did everything for them. and you didn't show her anything, no value of what work is. I said, what's she going to do when you die? She'll starve to death. I said, because she doesn't even know how to make a sandwich.
Well, I don't know how to crochet, but I want to learn.
Well,
I know how to sew.
It's,
Yeah, but I do
but-
believe that work gives us
Yeah,
a strong
parents
sense of
have
self.
to tell their kids what and how to do it, and to respect people,
Yes, that's
And-
important too.
and not that the world owes them a living. You know, they got to go out and know what work is.
So
With
tell me
ethics.
some of the places where you've been happiest in your life, because you've lived
Oh, just
88 years.
well, we got to go on a few cruises, and that was interesting. You know, you seen other people how they lived, and especially when we went to Brazil, it was eye opening.
Yeah.
You know, it opened up your eyes. They didn't have all the mechanic stuff, and you know, it was an eye opener.
Eye opener too. So, well, we've had a lovely conversation. I know there's more we can talk
Yeah.
about. We want to look at some of the pictures of your farm that I may just take and you can show me, because I think that you, Betty, are truly a walking encyclopedia of this area that we maybe take for granted. And if there's anything you want to tell me that I haven't asked you about, I please hope that
This
you
is-
will do that.
This is the size of potatoes that we grew.
Oh, next to the phone,
Yeah.
the dial phone. See if I can get.
Yeah, I don't know if this is going to show too much. This is the house when they were ready to start moving it over to Gailton.
Oops. Well, then we're gonna have to hold on to that.
And I'll have to show the one that
And while
moved
you're
in.
looking for, oh, here's where your house being built. When they moved the
Yeah.
one shed and it started collapsing.
Yeah, it's a 60-foot shed, and it collapsed while they were moving it. They cut it in half, and, well, where in the,
Oh,
here's
there's,
the,
and there's the main street.
yeah, that's
Look
Main
at
Street.
that.
And this was
7th Street.
Manweiler's over here, and this is going down the street. Here was coming in on 392 into town.
It's a beautiful house.
Yeah. So that was that. And now this is what we.
Yeah, and then you have a new
Yeah,
house.
well, that was when it started getting built here.
So you've seen a few houses.
Yeah. So
All right. Well,
Okay.
Thank you, Betty.
thank you.
It was my absolute great honor to meet you and to aspire to be like you,
Yeah.
Betty.
Yeah, I've seen a lot in my life.
Okay.
So